Welcome back to the show, guys. We got another episode of Combat Sports and Cannabis, baby. We are mother effing back. Not a lot of UFC stuff going on, at least not today. We are August 31st, so not a lot. I think there was like a fight night. I wasn't really too interested in it. But things we will be going over, a lot of Dirty Boxing. We had Dirty Boxing 3, DBX 3, and get into a little bit of the Misfit Boxing. I think there's 2 fights that I want to talk about, maybe 3. And I guess we'll talk about the Rajah situation, Rajah Jackson with the pro wrestler. So yeah, I guess let's freaking go. Dirty Boxing. Man, if you guys have not been paying attention to Dirty Boxing, I recommend you check it out. I wasn't too into it at first. I'm not like a boxing purist, you know, like I enjoy the sport. I like watching it, you know. I don't think I've gone to an actual boxing show, like a pro show, and watched it live. Like I said, though, I like the show. I've taken some classes. Obviously, it's a good foundation for Muay Thai. It's a good foundation for MMA. Dirty Boxing, it's a little different than traditional boxing. It's the rounds. It's from what I've seen, it's only 3 rounds. Doesn't even matter because it barely ever goes to the 3rd round. And the rule set's slightly different. It's an MMA gloves, which I do like the style of MMA gloves. I've yet to see any eye pokes, so it's something that maybe the UFC should implement. It kind of looks like they're the sparring, like almost like the karate sparring type gloves, but with open finger, you know. I think they're open finger actually, but they're just 4 ounces. So I mean the traditional UFC MMA gloves, it's like the glove comes out and it kind of like goes into each finger, right? So these ones, it's more of one piece. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can see it. So the traditional, I'll put pictures up, right? But the Dirty Boxing gloves, like I said, it's more of like the karate type or the sparring MMA gloves. They kind of go off on one piece all the way to like your first knuckle. Yeah, they got that style of gloves. So far, I've yet to see eye pokes. The other differences in the rule set is that you're allowed to elbow, which is dope. I like the elbow. You're allowed to clench. What else? You're allowed to ground and pound. So if someone goes to the ground, you're allowed to follow them to the ground and throw a couple strikes. I don't think you're allowed to take them down, but if you drop them, you're allowed to throw a couple strikes. So that's some of the difference in the rule set. I think it's cool. I like it. I think it's different. It's definitely a lot more action. You see knockouts a lot. The last DBX we had was DBX 3. Mike Perry said that he thinks only like 3 or 4 cards went to the judges. I can't remember because I did watch the whole card, but I saw a lot of it yesterday and then the rest of it today. Plus yesterday I had stuff going on. I was like editing while I was watching. I was kind of only paying attention to the main fights that I cared about. It was a long one. Right, so unfortunately I just don't have the bandwidth to watch all that. Sorry for the lower card, guys. It's very exciting. I like the color scheme. It's their color scheme is black and brown, black and brown, which is funny. Black and brown. It's out in Miami, so obviously I don't know if like the regulation even allows it out here, but it's out in Miami, so you get a lot of fighters from out that way. You see a lot of Muay Thai fighters and MMA fighters go out there. Mostly a lot of MMA guys. It's actually funny because when it has their stats, it'll have their MMA stats because obviously DBX, this is like their 3rd one they had. So it'll be like either 0 or maybe 1 or 2 fights, you know, in DBX. So they'll have the MMA record and they also include a little something about the fighter. Like I'll give you an example. For Rosenstruck, it said how he has like a food truck, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so black and brown. Also, the ladies that work the events, dime pieces, straight thotties, dude. Those Miami chicks with the fat ass titties, fat ass, big lips, dude. They're fucking little baddies, bro. Honestly, I don't know if they're actually. One of my friends came over during one of the fights, and he's like, "Oh, isn't that OnlyFans chick?" I don't know if she really was an OnlyFans chick, but she fucking for sure could have had an OnlyFans, and it would have worked out for her. So hats off to Mike Perry. I like what he's doing. I also like the ring. It's like got this like leathery texture to it, and it's got like these square patterns on it. It's just different, right? It's just something you don't really see, and I like it. So I like that. Also, the females, a lot of the females that are working the events, like the ones covering the interviews or whatever, some of them English isn't their first language, so it's kind of hard to understand some of them. I don't care though; they're fine. They're thotties, so bring them on. Bring on the thotties that barely speak English with the big asses, dude. Let's fucking run this. So yeah, DBX3 that happened. We also had Misfit Boxing that happened. I believe it was the same night. The main let me just get to the main event for DBX actually. DBX, their main event, it was Rosenstruck, and he fought a guy named Rakeem Cleveland. I'm sorry. Rosenstruck, he was released from the UFC not too long ago. He was a heavyweight fighter. He wasn't really like, I wouldn't say chat material. I mean, he could have. He had skills. It just seems like he didn't like put in the work, which is whatever. But he was a good gatekeeper, and he had a lot of good fights, good knockouts. I was kind of surprised when they let him go because that he was in the heavyweight division, and the heavyweight division just doesn't really have a lot of guys on the roster. So he was the main event. We also had co-main was Hector Lombard versus James Cannon. Hector Lombard, do I even have to give him an introduction? UFC veteran, Bellator champion, freaking. Growing up watching him, he was like known as the bad guy. He really was. He was kind of the guy that was hurting people and knocking people out, saying mean things, and sometimes he would hit people after the bell and stuff like that. So he kind of built a reputation as the bad guy. I've actually spoken with him through social media, and he's freaking nice as hell, which is kind of interesting. He's extremely nice, extremely respectful, and he does a lot of like things with like foundations, and he helps a lot of people out. He's always posting like good content, like people that need help type stuff. So I'm not sure if like, I don't know how that works out. I don't know if he was always like that. If like he's just there's the fighting Hector Lombard, and then there's the nice guy version. Maybe there's like a duality there, or maybe if like I wasn't, I mean, social media didn't exist like 20 years ago, so maybe it's just when like when he got older, he became a little bit nicer, and now you're starting to see it on social media. I don't know, but he's actually not a bad guy. He's actually really nice. I actually asked him if he wanted to do a podcast and he like an interview, and he actually agreed to it. And he gave me his phone number. Actually, I don't know if it's the same number. So I didn't want to do, or like for someone like him, I didn't feel like he'd be justice to do an online interview. So I wanted to go out there and interview him in person. And actually, when I was speaking to him about it, and I told him I'd like to do this interview in person, he was actually trying to figure out dates when he'd be in California. I think at the time, this was like a year ago, so he was touring, doing I don't know what he was touring for. I think just doing seminars and stuff like that. So it was kind of hard to set it up. And then I kind of just stopped talking to him. Just not, just got busy. But great guy. Hopefully he has the same number. Maybe I'll hit him up. Oh, actually, I hit him up. He had a fight for a Khabib Nurmagomedov event. It was his first fight for that event. He dropped the guy, got on top of him, and started beating the crap out of him, ground and pounding him. The guy started kind of turning his head, like face into the canvas. And so Hector Lombard like hit the back of his head a few times, and then it was a DQ. So I just reached out to him, and I was like, damn, that was a gay DQ, because he kind of like did it to himself, and whatever, rest is history. But yeah, so he was the co-main. We also had the fight before that was Bryan Battle versus Derek Freitas. Bryan Battle literally cut from the UFC like 2 weeks ago, and then within that same week he signed for DBX, made weight, and then came when he fought almost about a week later, dude. So props to him for staying on it, not letting the fact that he got dropped from the UFC with his paper, with his career. The UFC, they dropped him because he was just having a hard time making weight. I think he missed weight like twice already, and I don't know who's in charge of like keeping the fighters' contract and all that. But yeah, so they cut Bryan Battle. It was kind of interesting because he had an MMA record of like 12-2, so it's not like he was a bad fighter or anything. But yeah, he got cut, signed, then he fought Derek Freitas. And the other fight for DBX that was important, that I thought was important, or I thought it was an interesting fight, was Jessica Rose Clark versus Claudia Zamora. Jessica Rose Clark, she's a California transplant. I believe she's from like Dublin. Ireland, or like she's from Australia. I'm sorry. She's a California transplant. I know she trained at HB Ultimate for a little bit, or from time to time she'll go there. One of my teammates, or not my teammates, I'm sorry. One of my friends, Kaylani, he's worked with her in the past. Exciting fighter, very active. She fought in the UFC, right? So she was like top 10 in the UFC in her division. I think she was ranked like number 7. I'm not sure what happened with her in the UFC. She left them a long time ago. But since she left, no, I think it was like a year or two ago. But since she left, right when she left the UFC, I started seeing her a lot doing more kickboxing Muay Thai events. So she was fighting for Dennis for a while, doing WCK. Then I think, did I see her in Karate Combat? I can't remember. I could have sworn I saw her in Karate Combat. I could be wrong with that. And then on DBX, she did one event with DBX. She's just been active as hell, dude. Honestly, that chick just puts in work. Exciting fighter to watch. People complain about female fighters, and I get the complaint. I do, but I always say, dude, it's all about the matchup, dude. And honestly, she's a good fighter to watch. She matches up. If she matches up with another good fighter, it's going to be an exciting fight. The fight she had with what was this chick's name again? With Claudia Zamora. It was a good fight. Well, I'll get to it when I get to it. But anyways, those are like some of the main ones from Dirty Boxing. And then obviously I'm going to get into Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold. That was a fight that I was waiting for. And Tony Ferguson versus Salt Papi. Salt Papi. Man, I don't even know how that happened, but that happened. We'll get into that one, and maybe I'll talk about Dylan Dennis and Raja Jackson. I try to keep these under 30 minutes as always, so I'll run through this as fast as I can. So starting with Dirty Boxing and this mother effing joint. Let's light this fucking joint, baby. So this joint, it's some new stuff we've been testing. We have like a testing room upstairs, about 410s, stuff that doesn't hit the market yet for us, at least. This is Black Runts. It's kind of hard when we test stuff like this because the top tents, they're not hooked up to our feeding system. They're hooked up to the veg system, but not the flour. So a lot of the times they just run flour feed all the way through. So that kind of fucks with like the taste and how it finishes. So it's always like kind of a guesstimate on how well that strain will perform, you know. But anyways, this Black Runts, it tastes good. I think they cut it though. I think they don't like, I don't know, maybe the yield or something. So far I've been liking it though. I've been liking how it tastes. Black Runts, baby. Maybe we'll bring it back. Maybe we'll never. It's all good though. But here we go. First smoke of the day, baby. I think there's a podcast called like First Smoke of the Day. I should check it out. I've never really listened to it, but all right, so let's get into it. Opening fight for Dirty Boxing. Tyson Nam versus Ricky Bandejas. Tyson Nam, I don't know if he's Vietnamese. He's Southeast Asian. Nam sounds Vietnamese. He kind of looks like he's Cambodian, but he could be a darker Vietnamese cat. Tyson Nam, I saw him in the UFC. He fought for them for a little bit, not like too long, but he had a couple fights with them. I always support my people, you know what I mean? Whenever you see someone that represents the Asian community, like Southeast Asia in particular, I always got their back. Same thing with Mexican, you know, I'm half Mexican in case you guys didn't know. I know I look Asian and I probably sound like I rep Asian more, which I don't know how true that is, but I'm half Mexican, and if I see a little Hispanic guy in there and he's, yeah, I'm always going to support, always got to show love. So Tyson Nam, got love for him. Good guy, dude. He seems solid. It seems like he's got like a solid personality, solid morals. Fought Ricky Bandejas. First round KO. Got it quick. First fight, I think, outside of MMA, if I'm not mistaken. But his style was kind of boxing heavy anyways. If you watched him in the UFC, he kind of relied a lot on his right hand. He has a couple of knockouts with that right hand. I could be wrong. Maybe he did fight outside of MMA. He could have done kickboxing and boxing fights, but from what I can remember, and I didn't really do any research. I'm sorry, I should have. But I just remember him fighting in the UFC, and I do remember him getting a couple wins with that right hand. So got in there. Ricky Bandejas, first round knockout KO. I mean, you know, not much to write. Opening fight. Happy for him. His family was right there. He had his daughter there. That she was like 4 or 5 or something, maybe younger. That's always rough. It's always a trip bringing your kids because, I mean, if they see you knock out, that's gotta be terrible for their mental. If I'm not a father or anything, I don't know if I would bring my kid to watch me fight. I did when I was competing in Muay Thai. I had my mom come watch me once, my first fight ever. I fought a guy from King's MMA. And he you know, it was a cool fight. I mean, he won. It wasn't like I got mollywopped or anything. I think I took the first, and second was kind of a toss up. Third, I was like tired. You know, I've never had good cardio, and this dude kind of just beat me off the cardio. Good hands. But in one of the rounds, I believe it was the third round or the second round, we're in the clinch, and I'm like kneeing him, and he kind of like just loads up on a overhand, and you know, I mean, I'm still new to this. I think a year in, didn't really see it. He threw an overhand very, very hard. I ended up breaking the clench off of it, and it kind of spun my head a little bit to the side. I was wearing headgear too, though, so it kind of like your head bounces around. It's a bigger target, whatever, dude. So, but anyways, regardless, he hit me good. I kind of dropped the clench because of it, and I kind of spun my head a little bit to the right, and I remember I made eye contact with my mom. My mom was standing there like as close as she could be, you know? And I made eye contact with her, and just to look in her eyes, I was just like, I'm never going to have her come do this again. She was not having a good time. So having your kid in there must be crazy because like it's like that times a million, and especially like your kid, especially your daughter, they got to look at you like you're some type of god, right? Like you're the man. So getting them, I don't know, maybe it's good for them to see that you're human like everyone else, but I just prefer for kids to think I'm a god and I can fuck everything up. But anyways, Tyson didn't have to worry about it that night because he went and he got the dub, first round knockout, opening scene. I mean that is what's the word I'm looking for? That is not an uncommon thing in DBX. You see a lot of knockouts. It's pretty crazy and it gets bloody pretty quickly. I really like it. But yeah, so Tyson Nam defeats Ricky Bandejas in the first round. I don't know how many fights after this. I should have labeled it because I'm just not going to write all the fights. There's so many fights. Like I said, I try to keep this 30 minutes or under, or at least as close to 30 minutes as possible. But one of the fights that I really liked was Travis St. John versus Janzi Silva. I literally wrote in my notes, banger, absolute banger. Talk about this one. But yeah, St. John, he gets dropped in the first round, I believe, gets a 10 count, gets up, and he does a Superman punch to Silva, pushes him back, and then Silva's rocked now. And this is the first round too, guys. I believe this was the first round, if I'm not mistaken. So Superman punches Silva, the Brazilian guy. I believe he's against the cage. I'm not sure if he dropped him. But he has him against the ropes, bro, and then he has him against the ropes on more than one occasion, right? He kind of like he goes against the ropes, takes a couple shots, he's eating a lot, and then he kind of like gets his composure, and then again, bro, St. John hits him again, puts him against the ropes. Honestly, in my opinion, it's hard to score that first round, right? Because Janzi Silva, he got the knockdown, right? He got a 10 count. Travis St. John got a 10 count. But Travis St. John came back and basically dropped him twice. Didn't get a 10 count, but put him against the ropes. I'm going to call it basically dropped him, even though I don't remember if he actually dropped him or if he just was kind of like, stuck. That's a hard round to score. I would honestly have to score it even, in my opinion. The damage definitely went to Silva for that one punch, right? But then St. John did damage over time, right? Yeah, that's a hard round to score. I would. Also want to mention that in Dirty Boxing, they have a optional fourth freaking round. That's what I like about not doing the pay-per-view. When you do things on, like, you stream it onto YouTube, you don't really, like, you have a start time, but you don't really have to have all these ads and commercials like they do on pay-per-view. You know what I mean? So it's like pay-per-view. It's like you have your start time, you have a time that a commercial slot needs to be in, and and then you have a couple fights for whatever a fight. The next commercial slot. So then it has the main event has to start at this time to fit this many ads, right? So that's why you'll see in like the UFC, like things will happen when a lot of knockouts happen. You'll see like they'll start bullshit. They'll like go to the desk where people are just talking, right? And they're great for what they do. I love it, bro. But when you do things on go to YouTube directly or your own streaming platform, you don't really have to worry about the time frame, right? Because you might have your advertising that they have that they're like contracted to do, but you can slide it in at whatever time, right? You're just like oh, I have to give you 2 ads for this or whatever, right? It's different, and it allows you to do that optional fourth round, which I love, bro. The Japanese, I bring it up. They used to do the optional fourth round for a lot of their events. K1, Pride, it was amazing. You know, did Glory ever do optional fourth round? I can't remember. I don't think so. No, K1, right? So I'm glad that Dirty Boxing brought that. I don't think I've ever even seen it go to that optional fourth round, but I just love that they have that. Anyways, but back to St. John Silva. Side note. Then the second round, right? The second round, Silva, right at the beginning of the second round, Silva drops St. John and within the first 15 seconds and basically wins the fight. Like, and I'm going to be honest, bro, it looked like St. John was taking over. It looked like Silva wasn't going to be able, he got dropped twice, was really beat up, and he didn't look like he had his wits end when he was walking to his corner. So I was like, damn, this, like, the second round's going to start and St. John's going to get him. But no, Silva was able to recover and he was very aggressive and he ended up dropping St. John. I think Silva, he just was the stronger fighter. I think he had the stronger punches, dude, honestly. Some people just got that one too, you know, that one shot that'll put you out no matter what. That's the thing with DBS. You're going to see a lot of knockouts, man, and it's cool. I respect it. I love it. Jessica Rose Clark versus Claudia Zamora. Absolutely. I mean, good fight, honestly. It was a good fight. It was an interesting match of styles, right? So in this fight particularly, you had what was her name again? I'm sorry, Claudia Zamora. I thought I wrote their MMA record in here and shit like that. Yeah, I did somewhere, but I don't know where. But anyways, Clara Zamora. So she came in. I do remember her score. Her record was like way less than Jessica. It's something I noticed with these. I don't know if it's just a problem with the talent because it's a new promotion, but you would see fights where some guys like or girls they would have like 13 or 14 wins, maybe like 5 or 6 losses, and then they would fight someone else that would have like 6 wins, maybe 3 losses, or just not as much. They're just not as much fights, you know. And I don't know if that was just because they were trying to maybe set up some fights. You know, maybe there's a more famous ex UFC fighter fighting a newcomer. Some, you know, let's just. It could have been a padded record thing, or it just could have been a lack of talent, just because probably a lot of people are contracted out to other promotions. You know, DBX is still new. I'm not sure what they're paying, but anyways, that's one thing I noticed. But yeah, so back to what I was saying. There's a clash of styles, right? Zamora, she's more of a brawler. It looks like, you know, a Mexican boxing style. I'm not sure if she was Mexican. She's some type of Hispanic, or Latin, but can't remember if it was Mexican. But yeah, she comes forward just by sound on her mouth guard. Honestly, comes forward with her hands down and just starts swinging, dude, like hooks, body. She was a shorter fighter, but did not stop going forward, just constantly just in Jessica's face. Jessica was a little different. She was doing a lot more moving around, right? Great job at angling out, just more dancing around, hitting her, you know, 1-2 slip, you know, cross, dance, elbow. For Jessica, I think her biggest weapon of this fight was her right elbow. She seemed to be landing a lot of right elbows on Jessica Zamora. She landed a lot of left elbows too, but like that right was just there for a few of the rounds. I mean, it was beautiful to watch, right? It was the brawler versus the dancer, right? In my opinion, with elbows. Dude, that chick, what was her name? Claudia Zamora. Dude, I'm sorry. See, that's the marijuana. I can't even. Short-term memory. Ooh, gone. But Claudia Zamora, she got cut above both eyebrows. I think within the first round, dude, she got pieced up a lot the first 2 rounds, dude. Honestly, the first round especially, she was getting pieced up. That's the thing. She just kept walking forward, and like Jessica just had a good ring IQ. She had her distance control was just good. Like she would be up against the fence, and then she would slip to her left. You know, she would slide. She would roll under punches. You know what I mean? She just great job with her footwork. Great defense. Popping. She seemed to be a little bit faster too. The way she would like land her strikes, a little bit more poppy, you know, longer, shoot a lot taller. But yeah, it was a good fight to watch, dude. I think in the third round, Claudia started doing a lot better in the third round. She just kept going forward, and I think after 2 rounds of that, you know, Jessica just got tired from just moving around a lot. I think they mentioned how she mentioned in one of her interviews that she's been running a lot more, trying to get her conditioning up. I think that's just a telltale of her style. I feel like she understands that like she moves around a lot, and so having a good gas tank is important for her style. And she looked good though. I mean, she didn't look like she was getting too tired. She was still able to move all 3 rounds. But you slow down eventually, right? And especially when you have someone trying to bulldoze you and just come forward, and you're hitting them and they're not backing up. You're working on that back foot. It just gets you tired faster. But in that third round, she slowed down just a little bit, you know. She got off the gas just a little bit, and Claudia was able to kind of capitalize on that. I mean, dude, all she does is just walk forward and pushes you against the ring and just starts swinging. It's actually funny because she kind of fights like a female Hector Lombard, now that I think about it, who was also on that card. But yeah, I mean, Jessica Rose Clark, hats off to her. She got the dub. No disputing that. A lot of elbows. I love how you can use elbows in dirty boxing. First round was a beautiful round to watch. I mean, when they're both fresh, it was just, I don't know. That's just a good representation of what dirty boxing should look like, you know? Oh, yeah, honestly, though, one thing I did write in my notes was I think Jessica Clark, she should have invested more in the body shots. You know, when you have someone that walks forward like that, I mean, a lot of the times they're able to do that because they have a good shin. You know, they're able to rely on their shin not, you know, failing them and getting knocked out. And so it's like it gives them the confidence to press forward. You know, so I mean, maybe just invest in more body shots, slow them down. There's actually it's actually funny because there are moments where they're in the clinch and you could tell that Jessica wanted to throw a knee. She would kind of like pop her hips out and then like remember she's not doing kickboxing or she's not doing Muay Thai or anything, so she wouldn't throw it. And she, you know, good job to her for she didn't throw one knee or anything. But there is a couple positions where I could tell she was like thinking about throwing that knee. And that's what you want to do with an aggressive opponent like that just keeps pushing their shin against your chest. Just, you know, just grab them, elbow, knees, you know, just use your short tools. But yeah, she did the next best thing. She tried to stay on the outside, move around, make her come into your range, and then hit her and bounce out. I like that, you know. a lot of aggression from both parties. Just a lot of aggression, just in different forms of aggression. And yeah, what could I say? Pause. Damn, I think I hit like almost 30 minutes already. I'm rambling. It's the marijuana. Next fight, dude. Bryan Battle versus Derek Fritas. Bryan Battle, man, literally just cut from the UFC. The last UFC, he missed weight. I think he's missed weight once before publicly. I'm not sure if things have happened in the past, but they cut him. Which, like I said earlier, I thought it was strange because he's got if I'm not mistaken, his record is 12-2 in MMA. So I mean, it's not like he was on a losing streak or anything, but. Whatever, they decided to cut him. He got with Mike Perry. Mike Perry got him a contract for Dirty Boxing 3. I wonder how much they paid him. Do you get a discount for someone that just got cut, or like, are you competing with like other organizations to get them into yours? You know what I'm saying? That'd be an interesting conversation to have with Bryan Battle. I'm super curious on like how the money works in martial art area and fighting. You know what I mean? In combat sports, because most guys are struggling, but then you'll see some guys that are like making it work, and some guys that aren't even like super famous or anything, but they're able to cut good checks from this career. And I'm super curious because I feel like that'd be cool if we could just put that out there for these up and coming fighters. But anyways, Bryan Battle. So I'm not saying he's balling or anything. I don't know his situation specifically, but yeah, back to what I was saying. Bryan Battle just cut from UFC, just signed with Dirty Boxing. He's got a record. Bryan Battle's got a record of 12-2. Derek Fritas, he's got a MMA record of 3-9. And this is kind of one of the things that I was telling you about earlier. Is just like, it seems like there's a lot of mismatches, right? And I don't know if they're doing it on purpose to build names, or if it's just an issue with talent and weight class, whatever. But this to me seemed like a pretty big mismatch. I never seen Derek Fritas fight, so I don't know. Maybe he's on. Maybe his 3-9 is 3 consecutive wins. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, 3-9. There was a little bit of like some shit talking in this fight. There was like no fist bumping at the beginning of the fight. There looked like there was some animosity in general, distaste for each other. I wouldn't say hate, but distaste for sure. Notable comment I do want to put out there: how Bryan Battle has Dragon Ball Z tattoos all over him. He's got the Shenron Dragon on his back and some other on his leg. Shout out Dragon Ball Z, dude. I can't tell you the number of people that I meet at the gym who've told me their inspiration for training has come from Dragon Ball Z. Is pretty. I feel like my generation was either Dragon Ball Z, and then some of the younger guys got Naruto, And I'm curious on what the next generation is. I'm gonna start asking these high school kids. But that was a big catalyst for me getting into martial arts too. Was Dragon Ball Z for sure. Dragon Ball Z and Naruto, those were big ones for sure. Dragon Ball Z though, number one fan. Dragon Ball Z. Toriyama, let's go. First round was. I mean, it's kind of interesting because look at Bryan Battle. He's in the UFC. We've seen his fights. It's like we kind of have a decent idea on what he fights, and everyone knows, dude. UFC like that's like the highest caliber of MMA fighter, right? There was like no warming up from Derek Fritas. He did not give a fuck, bro. He just went in there and just was. He was kind of like biting his mouth guard, kind of ducking low a little bit, throwing overhands, throwing like a lot of hooks, just a lot of like powerful shots, a lot of loopy punches. I mean, he just wasn't respecting Bryan, bro. And Bryan just stayed crispy clean. I can't remember what he dropped him with, but he drops him twice in the first round, and the second time he doesn't even get up. That was it. Just first round KO, about a minute in. I wish I wrote more notes for this one. I feel like I should have. I just probably got distracted. But anyways, from what I remember, Bryan Battle, he just was moving around, staying crispy, 1-2 straight punches, I think he was just throwing mostly 2-shot combinations and just ended up dropping him. He just had the better fight IQ, the better ring IQ, was picking his shots more, was staying a little bit more calm. Fritas was just coming with that heat, man. Came with that heat. You might get burnt, baby. But hey, if you would have got that knockout, what have that done to his record, man? Honestly, like 3-9, being a guy that's 12-2 in the UFC, like damn, that would have been I mean, Bryan Battle doesn't give a man. He's here to make a name, make a statement, talk about how he's still relevant. And, good win for him. Honestly, I'm happy for him. I mean, a little disappointed that they couldn't give him some competition, a little bit better competition, someone more higher ranked, I guess, you could say. But whatever, dude, it's short notice and it is what it is. So yeah, Bryan Battle, let's go, dude. Back in the winner's column. I don't even know if he lost in the UFC his last fight, but yeah, moving on. We're just gonna get more high and more retarded. Waste your time. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to waste everyone's time. I don't know what I'm talking about, to be honest. Don't listen to me, man. Don't listen to my advice. Don't take anything I say seriously. I'm just here to waste your time. Anyways, so where are we at? The next fight that I want to mention, Hector Lombard versus James Cannon. Hector Lombard, I spoke highly of him earlier. Go watch his fights, man. His fights are legendary. Just in your face, aggression to the man. He fights like a Vanderlei Silva. He's Brazilian, dude. I don't know if he comes from the shootbox whole thing, but is he Brazilian? Oh, I'm sorry. He's Cuban by way of Australia. I'm sorry, Cuban, dude. I thought about it first. I was like, Lombard doesn't even sound like. I didn't know he's from Australia. That's interesting. I gotta look into that. You know what's weird is when I was looking up Hector Lombard's race, I was literally typing Hector Lombard race, but one of the top searches for Hector Lombard was his wife. Why is his wife the first? All right, now I have to look because I just want to know why it's at the top of the search bar. Okay, well, I don't know why she's popping up. I for some reason assumed she was like an OnlyFans chick or something, just because I was like, why is everyone looking up her chick? Anyways, they've been together since 2000, married since 2001. Happy for them. I think they have a kid. Beautiful. Anyways, yeah, he's Australian, Cuban. Well, he's Cuban from Australia. Aggressive fighter, man. He was known as a bad guy in the UFC and really tried to hurt people. Even after the belt break, said a lot of mean things. He was but as I start watching these UFC documentaries and like these UFC historians or whatever, and they interview older fighters, you kind of start to see that like a lot of the early UFC stuff was kind of like they did a lot like this wrestling thing where they kind of created personas for a lot of fighters. There's a fighter who was I thinking of? I can't remember his name, but he was like just straight up saying how he wasn't even a bad guy. He was like a super nice guy, and this is just someone that the UFC want him to be. And so he did it. And you see a few fighters say a few things like that. They kind of create like this persona for you, I guess. So who knows? Maybe Lombard but he was holding on to people's submissions for pretty long. I don't know, dude. And actually, he wasn't in like the early days of the UFC, but whatever, bro. Yeah, Hector Lombard. So he fought where am I at? James Cannon. James Cannon, way taller fighter. James Cannon's got an MMA record of 9-10. Hector Lombard's MMA record 34-11. UFC veteran, Bellator champion. What can I say about my guy? He's done it all. Thought it was gonna be another one of those mixed match fights. This fight proved James Cannon proved me otherwise. He showed he was not a can. James Cannon was not the can. Hector Lombard, he tried to steamroll through him. That's just classic Hector Lombard, just in your face, super aggressive. He ended up getting caught by James Cannon. I think James Cannon, he kind of like, what did he hit him with? He hit him with like it was like a jab. I don't remember what he hit him with, but he ended up dropping Hector Lombard literally in the first like 15 seconds. Hector Lombard kind of was trying to be in his face, kind of too aggressive, and James Cannon was able to kind of push him against the ropes. And when Hector Lombard tried to push him back, he threw like a few shots. James Cannon kind of like leaned back and came forward with like a straight or something and dropped him. I think really what it was Hector Lombard was being way too aggressive. He wasn't using any ring IQ. He wasn't using like trying to like look out for shots. He just was seeing red, wanted that KO. And I think James Cannon had some crazy reach. His arm span was just way longer, so he was able to kind of lean back on a lot of those punches. I want him, I would like to see it go longer. I see what Hector Lombard still had at his age. I don't know how. I think he's like 42 or something right now. I could be wrong. He's up there. But whatever. He got dropped and he didn't get at least he wasn't seriously injured. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see if he like Chris Benoit's family. I'm just kidding, but nah. It was an interesting fight. First round. Hats off to James Cannon though. The guy comes in with a 9-10 record. That he's basically one fight away from breaking even. Fights this guy that's 34-11, and he gets the KO. And I'm happy for James Cannon. We'll see what's next with him. Hector Lombard. Sorry you didn't get the dub. Hopefully I get to speak to you soon. I get you on an interview sometime, but it is what it is. And thanks for all you've done. Main event. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that, but I'm just gonna say Rosenstruck versus Raheem Cleveland. Rosenstruck, he was also a guy that was cut from the UFC. I mean, like, I believe I said this in the introduction. I'm not sure why they cut him. He was a heavyweight. The heavyweights, I think there's like 30 active fighters in the heavyweight, maybe, possibly. They need some people. And Rosenstruck, he was putting people out, man. He was knocking people out. His MMA record was 23-18 and one. One draw. You don't really see that a lot, but 23-18, nothing crazy, but I mean, he more wins than losses, and a lot of those were, I should have looked it up. Let me see, actually. A lot of those were by knockouts, right? I'm pretty sure. That's so weird. So it gave me like an AI overview, a Google AI overview, but it's in like some other language. Can I get this in English there, please? Can I? Well, okay. ESPN is saying his record is 15-6. Oh wait, no, yeah, I did get 15-6. I'm sorry. So he's got 13 TKOs, 13 TKO KOs, 2 over 2. So I don't know what the 2 is over. Oh, he's been knocked out twice. Okay, and he's been submitted once. Yeah, so 13 TKOs. That's pretty impressive, dude. And his record is 15. So, bro, like, dude, only 2 of his wins have gone to decision. That's impressive to me, in my opinion. He's got 6 losses. Out of those 6 losses, 2 of those losses came from him getting TKO'd or knocked out. So he's only lost 4 times by decision. I mean, yeah, man, Rosenstruck. I'm not sure why they cut him, but they did. Anyways, so first, this fight was a lot more of what you would expect from a professional bout. These guys were a lot more cautious, and it could be just because they're heavyweights. So at that weight class, what the is up, right? The fear of getting knocked out is in every punch. But anyways, so yeah, this fight they started off a lot slower than the other fights. A lot of feeling out. Not much really happened. For the first couple, let me see how long. If I wrote the time, not a lot happened for a minute, right? At least a minute. I mean, they both knew the danger, man. I mean, eventually Raheem tries to come forward and tries to commit to a punch, and then Rosenstruck hits him with the left hook and just puts him out. Yeah. Yeah, man, honestly, that's what it came down to. They were both kind of cautious and kind of scared to get in, like, not scared, but just cautious and being mindful of each other's power. Cleveland gets in a little too close, and Rosenstruck just took the opportunity to finally bite down on the mouth guard, throw that left hook, and just KO'd him just with that one punch. That's why I don't get why the UFC dropped him, because it's like he's still capable, man. But yeah, Rosenstruck, he wins his first DBX heavyweight. Honestly, I'm impressed with Dirty Boxing. I remember watching their first event, and the event looked very polished live, but the stream needed a lot of work. It just was there. There's issues with the audio, right? There's times where you wouldn't hear audio at all, or you hear lost static. Things felt clunky too in terms of how they were speaking to the camera and how things were being performed. The fight itself looked good, and from what I saw at the event, it looked good. Like, I think if you were watching it live, you wouldn't have noticed these things. It looked like a professional, like a good polished product, right? The second one, I mean, it was a crazy improvement over that. All the audio issues were resolved. I don't remember any audio issues. The cut scenes and all that were doing pretty good. It was still a little clunky in terms of like having how like the people spoke on camera and stuff like that, like the people, like the personalities, I guess you could say. Mike Perry, he's a great talker, but I feel like he's not used to like that type of performing. And then he had I think John Anik was there, and then there's this like other guy, this bald white guy, super tall. He kind of has like a country accent. Anyway, so you can see like by the third one, they kind of everything looks good. Like the way they talk is good. The show is good. The fights are good. That big country guy, I can't remember his name. I will say he's got a great voice, and he speaks about the fights very well, but on camera, he's a little awkward sometimes. There's sometimes you'll catch him where he just kind of doesn't know where to stare, and then he'll like kind of zone out and then start smiling, and it's kind of off-putting. There's just one moment in this event in particular, maybe I'll add a clip here, but in DVX3, at the very beginning, I believe, there's a part where it's Mike Perry in the middle, right? John Anik to his left, and then I'm gonna call him Country Boy to his right? And Mike Perry's talking about the show, and John Anik is just looking directly at him, and then he'll look back at the camera, right? And so he's looking at Mike Perry and back at the camera. Professional. It looks like what you would expect when you're watching a sports broadcast or something, bro. Whatever. This other guy, Country Boy on the right, he's like zoning out, and then he's kind of like he'll look at Mike Perry zone out, and then he'll look at the camera, and then he'll start looking at other, and then he'll start smiling and look at the camera. It was such a trip, dude. It was such a trip. And maybe it's just because I was high. Maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but I'll add the clip here. You guys tell me. Not to talk shit on you, Country Boy. You had a great voice. His stats, the way he was talking about the fighters and all that was great. You know, I feel like maybe he's a radio guy and he just isn't used to like being on camera or something. But this is all stuff you could fix, anyways. Yeah, that was DBX. So I'll get into a little bit Misfit, and then I think that our time is up, baby. Catch you next week. But Misfits boxing, man. You had Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold. A lot of hype leading up to this. A lot of shit talking between the two. A lot of questions about Darren Till. He hadn't had the best career in the UFC, but I'm of the opinion that I think that they discovered, right? So look, he knocked out Cowboy Cerrone in this one event, right? It wasn't a UFC event, but it was another MMA event, right? The UFC reached out to him, got him a contract immediately, right? He knocked out Cerrone, right? But Cerrone was at the tail end of his career, and also Till is just naturally a lot bigger guy than Cerrone. I don't know what the weight class was. I don't know if Cerrone had to just move up or if it even mattered. Till's bigger than him, younger, and it was, like I said, it was at the tail end of Cerrone's career. I'm not saying Till doesn't have skills, right? He's a great boxer, a lot of power in his hands. You know what I mean? A lot of power. He's good with his distance and range, accurate as hell. Southpaw. A lot of good things going for him. British. Not sure how that factors in, but British. Anyways, I seriously think the UFC got him, and they kind of just they needed a new star. He was a younger guy. They kind of were like, let's test this. They fed him to some sharks, and it didn't work out. And I think they just pushed him a little too soon. I think if he had more time to build his way up, fight the lower ranked guys, get some experience in the UFC, build his confidence, that's a big one, is the confidence too. You lose a couple fights, and even though it's to the top 5 guys or whatever, it's like a loss is a loss either way, man. And that affects you, most people in a hard way, right? Anyways, so I feel like they fed him to the wolves, but he's still a dangerous guy, and he still has a lot of skills, and he proved it tonight, right? He fought Luke Rockhold. He ended up winning. Dude, honestly, it was his straight left was just money. I felt like anytime he looked like he was a more accurate fighter. Every shot he threw was more intentional, and I felt like it was landing more than Luke's. He was more active, more aggressive, and that left hand, when it hit so hard. Like, Luke was kind of scared. He got dropped in the first, I think it was the first round, he got dropped by it, and after that, he just seemed like anytime Till would get it, enter the pocket, you would just see Luke just shell up, and Luke's he's a great striker, but his strength came from his kickboxing, right? Pure boxing. I'm not gonna say he's got bad hands or anything, but I've yet to see him do anything like super crazy with this pure boxing. I'm sure if this was a kickboxing match, it would have been a lot more even, But yeah, you see, Darren Till was a more aggressive fighter, landing a lot of straight punches. Luke Rockhold, he's known for having good footwork, so I'm surprised he didn't catch on being able to move around Darren Till a little bit better. When you go southpaw to southpaw, right? It's you always want to go to your opponent's backside, and I feel like Luke Rockhold was just not doing a good job at sliding to Darren Till's right side, right? Right side. So left side. Yeah, you got to go to his backside, his left side. So he wasn't doing a good job at just sliding to his left side. I'm just gonna say backside. I'm too high to think right now. And he just allowed Darren Till to line up that left hand and just put him against the ropes, line up that left hand and just swing it. I think if Luke Rockhold did better with his angles, kept moving to Till's backside, and then using a lot more of his jabs to not let him reach him with that backside, I feel like he could have done better. But if you watch the fight though, he kind of literally would be at this angle, and Darren Till would be right here with his left just coming straight down the pipe right there. Luke Rockhold needed to rotate more this way, and then exit this way. And he just uses punch and just uses the off angles to establish punches. Till looked like he was a stronger fighter, so you don't want to just be in front of that, and you don't want to shell up with someone like that. But it is what it is. So my man Till got the dub. I'm happy for him. Pause. Happy for Till. He got the dub, man. Let's freaking go. Misfit boxing. Honestly, feel like DBX was more exciting to watch than Misfits. I don't know. I watched the whole card tonight. But I was thoroughly entertained with Dirty Boxing. Next fight that I want to talk about on Misfits, it was Tony Ferguson versus Salt Papi. Man, this freaking fight was pulling on my heartstrings. I didn't know what to feel, didn't know what to expect. Tony Ferguson, California local, you know, he's one of he's a 10th Planet guy, right? So there's a lot of love for him. You know, I don't know if he's from Santa Ana, but I know he's been around Santa Ana a lot, so we got love for him, right? Been on a downward spiral. I don't think he's won a fight, and I think it was like 6 years or so, or 6 fights. Could be a fight a year, but yeah, about 6 fights he hasn't won a fight, so it's been a while. A lot of people were saying it was time, you know, myself included. You know, I think he did enough. For the longest time, he was the boogeyman of the division. Nobody wanted to fight him. You know, he did enough. He was that guy for a long time. Unfortunately, we never got to see the Khabib Ferguson, but that's just how the fight game goes. I think it would have been a good time, you know, just set up coaching or something else if you still want to be in the sport. But he just kept picking fights, man. He fought Paddy Pimblett. That was bad. Who did he get knocked out by? A freaking who did that up kick on him? Dude, I'm spacing so hard, dude. Someone knocked him out. Was it Chandler? Oh, yeah, Chandler. It was just, these are top 5 guys, dude. I get it, but, and who knows? Maybe if Ferguson would have been down to fight, like maybe lower guys, maybe top 10, or maybe unranked guys, maybe keep them. That's what I think we got to figure out, right? With these veterans, what do you do with them, right? These guys that are hitting like 40, late 30s, or these guys that just have been broken down, you know? You just feed them to the wolves and you build new stars, or like, what do you do? Or you just get rid of them? I don't know. I feel like the UFC has an obligation to kind of allow fights, like the fun fights, right? And throw the veterans in there, like the guys, like have them face other guys their age, have them fight these newer guys that have a way lower record. You know what I mean? Because dude, honestly, they put some fights on these undercards. There's like these guys that are like 2-0 or even maybe had like a 1-2 record or something, you know what I mean? So feed them to the veterans. Let the veterans, you know, piece them up, pay the veterans good for it. I mean, you know, people will still pay to watch Tony Ferguson. I'll bet you they tuned in for this. But anyways, Tony Ferguson, Salt Papi, a lot leading up to this. I don't know how to feel, man. I honestly, before all this happened, I was like, man, if he gets slept by Salt Papi, I'm gonna be hurt, dude. It'll be time to retire if he got slept by Salt Papi. It would have been time to retire. Salt Papi, he's an influencer, Filipino guy. He got famous because he would like do this weird thing with his face, right? And then he also did this fake running in place thing. That's what I remember him by. I don't know, maybe he did pranks or something else, but he just was this influencer guy that got involved with Misfit Boxing. And, you know, hats off to him because he was a bigger guy and he lost a lot of weight. You know, boxing, he's gone all the way down to like, I think he's at like 150 now or something. Well, I don't know what weight that this fight was in, but he looked like he was pushing like close to over 2, you know, before. So hats off to him on his fitness journey. Interesting that he signed the contract for this matchup. I think he really had confidence in himself. He's on a win streak right now. I think he's undefeated. Obviously, he's fighting like guys at his level. Tony Ferguson, this is a professional fighter. I know he's older. He's had a couple losses. Body's broken down, you know, mentally he's probably broken down, but he is still a professional fighter, you know. And if you are not at the caliber of a professional fighter, then you have no business calling out a professional fighter, you know what I mean? And Salt Papi learned, right? He got messed up. Honestly, he didn't. I think Tony Ferguson dropped him in the 3rd round, right? I don't know how many rounds this fight had. I can't remember, but the first round, Tony Ferguson really wasn't doing much, but he was pushing forward. He was pushing forward on Salt Papi. Salt Papi was more active from what I remember. But like I said, Tony Ferguson was just a dog, kept going forward, a lot of moving around, a lot of good head movement, honestly, switching stances. Second round, you saw Tony Ferguson open up more. You know, he was doing fakes, landing a lot of jabs, a lot of just single shots. I can't remember what he dropped him with, but like in the 3rd round, you know, Tony gets him against the ropes, and he just starts opening up. And towards the 2nd round, he started kind of getting more in his face. He started getting more confident. You know what I mean? That was a big thing, right? Like you had a guy who's used to being like on the big stage, right? And then a guy that just had a couple fights on the big stage. And I'm pretty sure like the UFC has brought in a bigger crowd than any Misfit boxing event. I don't know. I'm just saying, but I could be wrong. So Tony Ferguson just looked more confident, just walking forward, nice and cool. Towards the end of the 2nd round, he started putting his combinations together, right? And in the 3rd round, bro, he just starts letting go, and he puts Salt Papi against the ropes, and he's just like, dude, I don't know, like a 4 or 5 hit combination, just nonstop, pop, 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 uppercuts, you know, punches, all that. Dropped Salt Papi, and that was it. Like I don't know, did he drop him? I can't remember if he dropped him. I think he dropped him, or something. But the ref ended up just calling it. That was it. You know, I like to say the earth is healing. Ferguson finally got a dub, broke down in tears in the ring, and I honestly almost broke down in tears seeing all the videos. So hearts out to Tony Ferguson, but honestly, I still think you should probably hang it up. But you know, whatever, that's your life, your choice. So whatever you do, I support it. And we also did Dylan Dennis. He got a submission. It's kind of whatever. I mean, I think they're trying to set up Dylan Dennis. And I saw Tony Ferguson say something. That would be an interesting fight. I'm down for that. Let's do that. Yeah, and then I'll just touch base on the Roger Jackson situation real quick. Roger Jackson, man, son of Rampage Jackson. Holy, what can I say? What travesty, you know? For if you guys don't know what's going on, Roger Jackson, he went to go see some wrestling, fake wrestling, WWE stuff. I think it was called like some Knox wrestling or something. I think he had a friend that either worked there or was a promoter or something. There was an issue where one of the wrestlers named Psycho Stu, there's like some disrespect between the two. Psycho Stu broke a beer can on Raja Jackson's head. I think it was empty, and they said that it was like a prop, like he broke it on his hand and just put it on top of him. It was like a wrestling type move thing, fake stuff. Raja Jackson offended, clearly. It happened on a stream. Very upset. I would be upset too. I don't remember what the altercation started over too. I guess Psycho Stu claims that he thought that Raja was working the event, I guess. But in my head, I'm like, so do you just disrespect like workers or something? Or I don't know. Maybe that's just the vibe. Maybe that's just how it is there, and that's just their friends. I don't know. So I can't speak on that. But you know, that happened. There's an apology. Roger Jackson was offended. The show starts, and the promoter for the event tells Roger Jackson that he can go into the ring to get his revenge, right? Like, it'd be part of the show, right? It gives him the okay. Roger Jackson is on Kick. He's on chat, and he's talking to the chat, and he's steaming. He's still mad at the situation. This chat is like telling him to basically beat the fuck out of this guy. You know what I mean? It's the internet, bro. The internet's brutal, right? You guys know fucking, you know, Reddit and old school Xbox chat rooms. People can be dick on the internet. A lot of times people are dicks on the internet, but they're not dicks in real life. It just brings out the worst in people sometimes. So they're telling him to get violent, and he's getting amped, and he's like, oh, chat, like thumbs up if you want me to knock him out or something, or I don't remember, bro, right? So he gets in there, and he basically picks up Psycho Stu, the wrestler, double legs him, slams him head first into the canvas. It looks like he's out off that slam, and then he proceeds to punch him in the face, ground and pound him. I heard reports of it being about 20 to 22 shots. Could be wrong. Didn't count it myself. Dude is a bloody mess. Guys are trying to pull him off, and he's pushing him off. Eventually, he storms off, leaves the venue. He's outside, and he's still on Kickstream, and he's just like, "Ain't no one ever gonna call me, not even my dad," or something like that, right? Something along the lines. I'm paraphrasing, right? And he goes home, doesn't even get arrested. Psycho Stu gets rushed to the hospital. Yeah, some of the reports say that he's in critical. Reports said he was in critical condition. He eventually stabilized. He was in critical but stable condition. I don't know what that means. Broke a lot of teeth, broke orbitals on both sides of his face. It looked like it was pretty terrible, you know. Mr. Beast actually reached out and said that he'd give him some money he'd send him money to recover and all that. Raja Jackson yet to be arrested. Rampage Jackson, he's getting a lot of heat. Dude says that no matter what, he loves the son and he supports the son. People are upset about that. I can understand where he's coming from, man. That's the son. Love is unconditional, right? I mean, not. If your love is unconditional, that means it's unconditional, bro. That means you love him no matter what, right? I think Luke Thomas said that, and it's true. He loves the son no matter what. I'm sure Hitler's wife or children, I don't know, still loved him. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But yeah, Rampage Jackson supposedly has been getting death threats. That's what he said, and he's mad. He's also mad at the MMA guru or whatever. What's that fool's name? MMA guru, right? He says that dude's saying racist comments. I don't know if they sound racist to me, but whatever. I don't know everything he's saying. It's an interesting situation, bro. I don't agree with what he did, with what Raja Jackson did. I feel like he took it way too far. I understand how he's upset. He probably should have just slammed him, and once he got knocked out, maybe got 1 or 2 hits in. At least not to his face, you know, ground and pound his ribs, bro. Break his ribs with knees and shit. But the face is like, people, you know what I mean? Like, people don't like that, man. it seems like he's just like, and I mean, he's getting a lot of hate from a lot of people, but then he's getting a lot of slack too, just because a lot of people like, you know, they got love for Rampage, and I'm sure they've met Raja. He's probably not a bad kid. He just hard, you know. I don't know the kid. Maybe he is a bad kid. I don't know. Most people aren't bad people though, you know. I'd like to believe that at least. I think most of us are just trying to do our best, and we get caught in situations where we temporarily lose sight of what our own morals are. You know what I mean? I think we've all been there where we've committed something, right, and we look back and we just feel like ashamed of it, you know. And that's why I'm a big advocate for taking mushrooms, because it puts me in that headspace like regularly. Like every time I take a lot of mushrooms, I'll think about things that I've done, how I treated people, and how I reacted to that situation. And so I feel it a lot. I feel like when I don't take mushrooms, I could go months, weeks, even years before I think of anything that makes me feel remorseful, you know. Maybe that's what Roger Jackson needs. Maybe we just gotta get him hooked up on some mushrooms. Smoke some weed, eat some mushrooms, think about how you act, and is that a reflection of who you want to be, you know? So anyways, that concludes my episode of Dirty Boxing and Misfit Boxing, along with some life advice. Like I said, this is all for entertainment purposes. Please don't take my advice. Don't listen to me. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.